Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Chapter 1 of the 5 aggregates. We're going into Buddhadhamma by BhinkhuP.A.Payutto. 1-2, 1-3, and 1-4. 1-2 is sanya and sati, memory, recollection, and mindfulness. 1-3 is perception, consciousness, and wisdom. And 1-4 is relationship between the 5 skandhas, or the aggregates. Chapter 1 of the 5 aggregates. 1.2 Sanya Sati, memory, recollection, and mindfulness. There tends to be confusion among Buddhist scholars as which mental factor in the Pali vocabulary corresponds to memory. Sanya is often translated as recollection, whereas sati may be translated as mindfulness. Recollection, recall, or memory. In regard to the latter term, there are some prominent sutra examples. For example, the passage praises Venerable Ananta as foremost amongst the Bhinkhu disciples in remembering the Buddha's words. In this context, Gautama Buddha uses the term sati. Of all my disciples, Ananta is supreme in sati, in memory. One aspect of sati is recollection, the ability to recall. Another aspect is mindfulness. In the formal teaching, there is no confusion about this matter. Memory is not the exclusive function of just one mental factor, but rather it is part of a mental process within which sanya, perception, and sati, mindfulness, play the most prominent and important roles. Both terms sanya and sati have overlapping meanings in respect to the concept of memory. One aspect of perception, sanya, has to do with memory, while the other aspects are separate from it. This is the same for mindfulness, sati. One aspect pertains to memory, while the other aspect functions as apart from the process of memory. Note these important distinctions between sanya and sati, and in the process of memory. Now, perception, sanya, designate and identifies sense objects. When one encounters such objects again, sanya compares their current features with established perceptions, determining any similarities and differences. If one determines that the old perceptions and the new correspond, this may be called recognition. If there are differences, one creates additional perceptions. The term sanya refers both to the recognition, designation, and identification of the object, the comparison and accumulation of data, and to the perceptions themselves, the actual data and information created and stored. In this context, sanya creates the requisite conditions for memory. The important attribute of sanya is that it engages with sense objects immediately present. When these sense objects manifest, sanya is able to focus on, identify, and remember them. Sati functions to draw sense objects to attention and hold them firmly in the mind. It directs and sustains attention to sense objects, preventing them from drifting by or slipping away. These sense objects may be currently manifesting, or they may have occurred in the past. The term calling to mind, reflection, and remembering, and the attentiveness in the context of memory is remembering and enables recall. In this sense, sati is the opposite of samosa, which means forgetting. Sanya is not paired with forgetting. Sati is generated from within an individual, relying on the power of volition or intention, action, power of volition, even when sense objects are not immediately manifest. Because it is a volitional response to the sense object, it is classified as a mental formation, sankhara. Sanya records and notes sense objects. Sati draws sense objects to the attention. Both a healthy perception, the ability to identify things clearly, to designate things in a well-ordered and structured way, and to integrate and connect things, which relies on attentiveness and understanding, and a strong recall. The ability to recollect, which relies on clear perceptions, constant mindfulness, and a bright, peaceful, and concentrated mind. These are the factors for a good memory. At one time in the past, Robert and Jake knew each other well. 10 years later, they met again. Robert recognizes Jake and remembers the places they once visited and the activities they once shared. The recognitions of the other person is sanya, whereas the recollection of the past events is sati. On one occasion, Greg meets and talks with Carl. A month later, Greg's friends ask him whom he met and spoke with on a specific date. Greg reflects on the past and remembers that he met with Carl. This recollection is sati. A telephone is located on one corner of the room, and the phone book is located in another. Karen opens the book and finds the number she is looking for. She makes a note of this number in her mind and then walks to the telephone to dial it. As she crosses the room, she keeps this number constantly in her attention. The reading and noting of the number from the book is sanya. The recall of that number from the moment she leaves the book is sati. When sense objects become manifest, one is able to perceive them immediately. Yet when they do not manifest, and in the case they are the mind objects, Dhamma Ramana, matters inherent in the mind, one can use sati in order to draw them forth and focus on them. Moreover, sati is able to call perceptions to the mind. That is, it can recall past perceptions to the objects of attention. Sanya is able to identify, clarify, and consolidate these previous perceptions, or to perceive them in a new way according to one's aims and objectives. 1.3. Perception, consciousness, and wisdom. Perception, sanya. Consciousness, vijnana. And wisdom, panya, are aspects of knowledge, yet they are part of three distinct aggregates. The first two factors, described earlier in this chapter, constitute an aggregate in themselves, whereas panya is classified among the mental formation, sankhara. Wisdom, panya, refers generally to understanding, the more specifically to comprehensive or clear understanding, to a thorough and accurate understanding of the truth, satya. This term, panya, is defined in many different ways, including knowledge of causality, causality, knowledge of causality, knowledge of good and evil, knowledge of right and wrong, knowledge of suitability, knowledge of benefit and harm, knowledge of advantages and disadvantages, thorough knowledge of condition phenomenon, knowledge of constitute factors, knowledge of causes and conditions, knowledge of origin and destination, knowledge of the interrelationship of things, knowledge according to the truth, genuine knowledge, genuine understanding, knowledge of reality, knowledge how to reflect on, contemplate, analyze, and engage with or manage things and situations. Simply speaking, Panya is clear, correct, genuine understanding. Wisdom possesses an insight into reality, and it penetrates into the heart of problems. It supports both sanya, perception, and consciousness, vijnana. In regard to the latter, it broadens and deepens the range of consciousness. Likewise, in regard to the former, it increases the range of perception, because the cognition and apprehension of things is dependent on one's knowledge. This is similar to solving mathematical problems. As long as one cannot solve the initial equation, one has no data or criteria for further calculations. With increased understanding, one possesses the markers or raw material for further perception and analysis. Panya, wisdom, stands in opposition to delusion, moha, ignorance, misunderstanding, whereas perception, sanya, and consciousness, vijnana, are not contrasted with delusion in this way. Indeed, perception and consciousness may fall prey to delusion, moha. When one is deluded and confused, one consciousness, experiences, and perceptions are equally distorted. Panya, wisdom, assists here to rectify both consciousness and perception. Perception, sanya, and consciousness, vijnana, rely on currently manifesting sense objects in order to function. Images or concepts of these sense objects are thus created and discerned. Panya, wisdom, on the other hand, reflects on its sense objects and responds actively to them. Panya, wisdom, is deliberative faculty. It is thus classified amongst the volitional formation, sankhara. It links various sense impressions with each other, analyzes their various attributes, compares and considers various perceptions, and discerns cause, effect, interrelationship, and the ways to benefit from things. By doing this, it provides consciousness and perception with wholesome food for engagement. Venerable Sariputra once responded to the question on how panya, wisdom, and vijnana, consciousness, differ. He explained that panya knows clearly that this is dukkha, this is suffering, this is stressful. This is the cause of dukkha, this is the cause of stress, this is the cause of suffering. This is the cessation of dukkha, this is the cessation of stress, this is the cessation of suffering. And this is the way leading to the end of dukkha. This is the way leading to the end of stress and suffering. Consciousness, on the other hand, knows discriminative understanding that this is pleasure, this is pain, this is neither pleasure nor pain. Panya and consciousness, however, are intimately intertwined and in a sense inseparable. Having said this, there is a distinction in that wisdom, panya, in a quality to be trained and developed, Buddhadhamma, in order to increase and strengthen it. In contrast, consciousness is a quality to be fully understood, Parinaya. Its nature and its attributes should be truly recognized and understood. The commentary texts include the Visuddhimagga, explain the distinction between perception, sanya, consciousness, vijnana, and wisdom, panya, in this way. Perception, sanya, simply recognizes the properties of a sense object. They say that it is green or yellow. It is unable to understand the characteristics of impermanence, dukkha, and anatta, the non-self. Consciousness, vijnana, also knows the object's properties of green and yellow, etc. And it is able to understand the characteristics of impermanence, dukkha, and anatta, non-self. It understands according to the counsel and guidance by panya, but it cannot deliver one to the actualization of the path. For example, to the realization of the Four Noble Truths. Panya, however, accompanies all three. It knows the properties of sense objects, it discerns the three characteristics, and it enables the actualization of magga, the path. The commentaries use the analogy of three people who look at the same coin. Perception, sanya, is like a young child who simply discerns the shape of the coin, small, large, square, or round, its color, attractiveness, sheen, or strange marking. He does not know that it is an agreed upon means of trade and exchange. Consciousness, vijnana, is like an adult who discerns the shape, markings, etc. of the coin, who knows that it is used for trade and exchange, but he does not possess the deeper understanding of whether the coin is genuine or counterfeit, or what the combination of the metals were used to mint the coin. Panya is like a treasurer who discerns all of the above data, and in addition possesses expert knowledge to the extent that he may look at, tap and listen to, smell, taste, or weigh the coin in his hand to know everything about it, including where and by whom it was made. Moreover, panya, wisdom, does not always arise. It may happen that only perception and consciousness arise, devoid of panya, wisdom. Yet when panya, wisdom, arises along these other two qualities, it is difficult to distinguish one from the other. When Jali and Kanha sought a hiding place, they walked backwards into the lotus pond, convinced that their pursuer would think that they only had recently come out of the pond. This line of thinking on their part may be referred as wisdom, panya. Later, Vesantara saw their footprints and knew immediately that they had walked backwards into the pond. This was because there were only prints leading away from the pond and none leading towards it. And the impression in the prints was deepest at the heel. This understanding may also be referred to as panya, wisdom. The children and their father apply different levels of panya and circumspection, which indicates how wisdom, panya, derives benefit from perception, sanya. Prince Siddhartha Gautama saw an old person, a sick person, and a human corpse, and as a result, he reflected on it, discerned the dukkha to which everyone is prone without exception, and then went on to understand how all conditioned things are impermanent, subject to arising, to alteration, and eventually to passing away. He saw that the need to bring to an end of dukkha based on these conditions. These are all examples of panya, wisdom. When Gautama Buddha was preparing to establish Buddhism in Magadha country, he went to visit the matted hair ascetics of the Kassapa clan, who revered by the people of Magadha, in order that they gain confidence and endorsed Gautama's Buddhist teaching. The insight and intuition behind this line of thinking by Gautama Buddha is also expression of panya, wisdom. In turn, panya, wisdom, is a general term describing the kinds of knowledge mentioned above. There are many different levels of panya, wisdom, for example, mundane wisdom, lokiya panya, transcendent wisdom, lokuttara panya. There are many other Pali terms indicating specific levels, degrees, and aspects of Panya, wisdom, or referring to the specific activities, qualities, or benefits. For example, na, knowledge, vijja, true knowledge, vipassana, insight, sampajana, clear comprehension, parina, thorough knowledge, abhina, supreme knowledge, and pati sampata, discriminative knowledge. Finally, 1.4, relationship between the aggregates. The 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates, are interdependent. The aggregate of corporeality, rupa skandha, comprises the body, while the 4 aggregates of mentality, namma khandha, make up the mind. Human life requires both the body and the mind. When the body and the mind function normally and operate in unison, life progresses well. Mental activities, for example, require an understanding of the external world. This understanding implies a sense data, visual form, sounds, color, odor, tastes, tangible objects, entering the way of the eye, entering the way of the nose, entering the way of the tongue, and entering the way of the body. Both the 5 senses, objects, and the 5 sense faculties are material things, Buddhadhamma. The part of the aggregate of corporeality, they are part of materiality, form. In this chapter, the emphasis is on the mind, considering the body to be similar, to be a ready-made instrument, prepared to serve mental activities. The mind is considered to be the focal point of life, and the range of function is vast, complex, and profound. The mind gives value and meaning to life. It is directly connected to the teachings by Gautama Buddha presented in this book. The 4 aggregates of mentality are intimately related, influences, and conditioning one another. The arising of these 4 aggregates is ordinarily outlined in the following way. Dependent on the eye and forms, eye consciousness arises, similarity with the ear and sounds, the nose, odors, etc. The meaning of these 3 is contact. With contact as condition, there is feeling. What one feels, that one perceives. What one perceives, that one thinks about. Here's an example. Gordon hears the sound of a bell. Ear plus sound plus ear equals consciousness. He finds the sound pleasant, which is Vedana. He perceives the sound as melodious, the ringing of the bell, and the sound of the melodious bell would be Sanya. He likes the sound and wants to hear it again. He thinks about striking the bell himself. He wants to obtain the bell. He thinks about buying or stealing the bell, etc. This is Sankhara. Note, the critical role of feeling, Vedana, is this process. Perception, Sanya, pays particular focus on the objects providing pleasurable sensations. The greater the pleasure, the greater the importance bestowed on the object by perception. In addition, such pleasurable feeling incites people to think and act in order to increase the pleasure. One may describe this as basic, ordinary, or elementary process. In this process, feeling, Vedana, acts as the incentive, similar to a person who invites one to take something or to refuse and avoid it. Perception, Sanya, is similar to a person who gathers and stores data or raw material. Mental formation, Sankhara, resembles a person who takes this raw material, shapes it in preparation for work. Consciousness, Vijnana, is similar to the director of the work, aware of everyone else's activities. It both opens the way for the work to be performed and it receives the results of the work. Now, the commentaries including the Visuddhimagga, provide the following analogies. The body is like a bowl. Feeling is a staple food. Perception is like a side dish of food. Mental formation are like the cook. The consciousness is like the consumer of the food. Similarly, the body is like a prison. Feeling is like the punishment. Perception is like the offense. Volitional formations are like the magistrate inflicting the penalty. And consciousness is like the prisoner. This is from Visuddhimagga 479. Sapa Sankha Vanna. One complex aspect of this process is the feeling of Vedana does not act as a catalyst for the other aggregates in one-sided way. The other aggregates, too, have influence over feeling. Take, for example, one single piece of music that one person listens to and finds delightful, whereas another person listens to it and feels depressed. Similarly, the same person may listen to the same song one time and feel elated, while another person, he may feel disturbed by it. A general principle is that those things that one likes and finds pleasure in correspond to one's desire. When one encounters them, one is happy. Inversely, those things one dislikes conflict with one's desire. When one encounters these things, one suffers. The mental formations, say, of liking, disliking, desire, and aversion, hatred, then condition another round of feeling. Here, perception is also engaged. That is mental formation, condition, perception, which is in turn influences feeling. Here is an example. A person sees someone whom he admires behave in a particular way and perceives that behavior as lovely or endearing. He may witness another behavior by someone he dislikes and perceives this as annoying or abhorrent. Later, he may encounter others exhibiting such behavior, when he has previously perceived as either enduring or annoying, which be sanya, the use of sanya, and the result feeling either delighted or distressed, he'd be using vedana, and either approval or angry by it, he would be using sankhara, or classifying it with sankhara. This internal relationship between the aggregates can be even more complex. Take, for example, a work project or a study lesson that is difficult and demanding. Performing the task alone may involve much turmoil and discomfort, causes one to be disinclined from engaging with it. Yet if there are particular incentives, one may be more interested in determined to the work or to pursue the lesson. The incentives may be pleasurable sensation in the present. For example, the method of learning is fun and entertaining, or they may be elaborate matters associated with perception of future pleasures, say of gaining a reward, achieving success, or deriving some benefit either for oneself or for others. These perceptions are dependent on various mental formation. For example, tanha, craving, mana, conceit, and panya, wisdom, which then lead to further perception by bestowing meaning, value, and importance to the work or study. Moreover, one now experiences pleasure while performing this deed. Although one may feel physical discomfort, one's mind is imbued with joy, making one more eager to do work or to complete the lesson. When the school bell rings in the late afternoon, the student hears the sound. He would be using vedana. identifying it with Vedana. Having heard this sound every day, they may feel neutral about it, identified with when the student hears the sound, it'd be Vijnana. But then when he hears the sound and feels a different way about it, that would be Vedana. All of them identify the sound as the bell denoting the end of the school day, would be identified as with Sanya. Some children may be delighted, Sukha Vedana, plus Sankhara, because they ache from sitting all day and they may now go out and play. This accompanying perception. Another children may be sad, Dukkha Vedana plus Sankhara, because they must interrupt a useful and valuable lesson, or because they may return to unkind, intimidating guardians. So this would be Sankhara with accompanied by perceptions. This entire process, beginning with consciousness, is an intricate interrelationship of causes and conditions, which together create people's personalities, also determine each person's unique fortune and destiny. Volitional formation, Sankhara, represented by intention, Cetana, are the agents which shape and mold the process. In this context, Sankhara is a technical name for the volitional action, Kamma. Inversely, Kamma is the informal title for volitional formation or volitional or actions, representing them when they are actively operative. It is the term used when referring to the critical role that volitional formations play. Example, it is Kamma that distinguishes beings as inferior or superior. Beings exist according to their Kamma, according to their deeds, according to their actions, according to their volitional actions, powered by Sankhara in their intentional action, Cetana. I leave you with that for today. Ko Anumotana.